The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. 12 species sat in their floating chairs, arranged in a perfect circle. They argued about trade routes and border disputes. They had done this for thousands of years. It was boring. It was safe. It was normal. Ambassador of the Dominion was speaking. His blue skin glowed softly under the chamber lights. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he made his point about shipping lanes near the outer rim. Nobody was really listening. These meetings had become routine. Nothing ever changed. Then every alarm in the station screamed at once. The chamber fell silent, stopped mid-sentence. Every representative turned to look at the massive holographic display in the center of the room. Red warnings flashed across the screen. The station's AI spoke in a calm voice that did not match the emergency. Spatial anomaly detected. Unknown origin, unknown classification, scale, unprecedented. High Chancellor as rose from his chair. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His gray skin was marked with the wrinkles of 3,000 years. He had seen many things in his life: wars, plagues, the rise and fall of empires. But as he watched the censored data scroll across the screen, his ancient heart filled with a fear he had not felt in 800 years. Location, he demanded. His voice cracked slightly. Edge of the system, Sector 7, the anomaly is. It is growing. On the display, a tier appeared in space itself. It was not like hyperspace travel. It was not like the warp gates the Council used. This was something different, something older. The rift glowed with golden light, and it stretched wider and wider until it could swallow moons. And then something came through. The ship that emerged was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. It was massive, 17 kilometers of black metal and sharp angles. It moved slowly, deliberately, like a predator that knew it had no enemies. Weapons covered its hull, strange weapons that the Council's computers could not identify. The ship was bigger than most space stations. It made the Council's defensive fleet look like toys. But it was not the size that made the Chancellor's blood run cold. It was the symbol on the ship's hull, a blue and green sphere wrapped in olive branches. He knew that symbol. He had hoped never to see it again. "Impossible," whispered the ambassador. Her tentacles trembled. "They are dead. They are all dead. We made sure of it." The Council's defensive fleet moved to intercept. 50 warships, the pride of galactic civilization, arranged themselves in battle formation. Their weapons charged, their shields activated. They sent warnings to the unknown vessel. The unknown vessel did not respond to the warnings. It did not slow down. It did not change course. It simply continued forward as if the fleet was not worth noticing. Then a transmission cut through all frequencies. It overrode every communication system in the sector. A human woman appeared on every screen. She wore a black uniform with silver trim. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were calm and steady. "This is Captain Vance of the Terran Sovereignty ship Prometheus. We come in peace. We request an audience with the Galactic Council." She paused. The hint of a smile crossed her face. Humanity has returned. Chaos erupted in the council chamber. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate attack. Others called for evacuation. The ambassador fainted. Her aides rushed to help her. Chancellor as raised his hand for silence. It took several minutes for the chamber to quiet down. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with age and guilt. "How many ships do they have?" The AI answered. "Sensors detect one vessel. However, our sensors cannot penetrate the spatial rift. There may be more waiting on the other side." "One ship," laughed the ambassador. His laugh was nervous and high-pitched. "One ship against our entire fleet. We can destroy them now, finish what we started." "Can we?" The Chancellor turned to the military advisor. "Analysis of their vessel." The advisor's face was pale. His hands shook as he read the data. "The ship's hull is made of materials we cannot identify. Its power output is." The readings must be wrong. They show power levels equal to a small star, its weapons. We have no data on its weapons. We do not know what they do. Guess, said the Chancellor. The advisor swallowed hard. Based on the energy signatures, one ship could destroy our entire fleet in minutes, maybe seconds. We would not even scratch their paint. Silence fell over the chamber. The weight of the advisor's words hung in the air like poison. They said they come in peace, someone said quietly. They also said they would return, the Chancellor replied, and that they would be ready. It seems they kept their promise. On the display, the Prometheus had stopped moving. It sat in space like a mountain, unmoving and eternal. The Council's fleet surrounded it but kept their distance. Nobody wanted to fire the first shot. Nobody wanted to find out what those unknown weapons could do. Another transmission came through. Captain Vance again. We understand that our arrival may cause concern. We have no wish for violence. We have come to talk, not to fight, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. Her eyes seemed to look directly at the Chancellor. We have waited 847 years for this moment. We can wait a little longer for your response. The transmission ended. Chancellor Az stood alone at the window of his private chamber, staring at the distant shape of the human ship. His reflection stared back at him, an old man carrying the weight of an old sin. He remembered the decision. He remembered voting yes. He remembered watching the human colonies burn. He remembered the screams that haunted his dreams for centuries. He remembered arriving at Earth and finding it empty. He remembered the message they left behind. We will remember, we will return, and we will be ready. They had tried to destroy humanity because they were afraid of how fast humans learned, afraid of how quickly they grew, afraid of what they might become. Now he knew what humanity had become, and his fear was greater than ever. But beneath the fear, buried deep, was something else, something that felt almost like relief. For 800 years he had carried the guilt of genocide. Perhaps now, finally, he would face judgment for his crimes. He pressed the communication button with a trembling finger. Tell Captain Vance that the Council will receive her, and may the stars have mercy on us all. Historian Moan had spent his entire life studying the past. He worked in the Council archives, surrounded by records that stretched back millions of years. He knew the history of every species in the galaxy, every war, every peace, every triumph and tragedy. But there was one section of the archives that was locked, one period of history that nobody was allowed to study, one name that was forbidden to speak. Until today. The Council had ordered him to prepare a full briefing on humanity. They needed to remember what they had done. They needed to understand what they were facing. So Moan unlocked the forbidden files and began to read. What he found made him sick. Humanity had been discovered 400 years before the Purge. An exploration ship had stumbled upon their radio signals. At that time, humans were primitive. They had barely reached their own moon. They seemed harmless, curious creatures with short lives and simple technology. The Council decided to make contact. They introduced humanity to the galactic community. They gave them basic technology. They expected it would take humans thousands of years to catch up to the elder species. They were very wrong. Within 50 years, humans had reverse-engineered faster than light travel. Within 100 years, they had established colonies across dozens of star systems. Within 200 years, their technology began to match the elder species. The Council grew worried. Humans asked too many questions. They wanted to know how everything worked. They took apart alien technology and built it better. They combined ideas from different species in ways nobody had thought of before. They were not content to accept limits. They pushed against every boundary. Some species admired them. They found humans fascinating. The small traders loved doing business with them. But the older species, the founders of the Council, grew afraid. The warned that humans were dangerous. They bred too fast. They learned too quickly. If left unchecked, they would soon surpass everyone else. They would upset the balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for millions of years. Secret meetings were held, plans were made. The word purge was spoken for the first time. Moan read the transcripts of those meetings with growing horror. The council had debated the fate of an entire species like they were discussing crop rotation. They talked about acceptable losses and necessary measures. They convinced themselves that they were protecting the galaxy. They voted to commit genocide. The purge began on a day that humans called September 15, 2847. The council fleet arrived at the outer human colonies without warning. They gave no explanation. They simply opened fire. The colony of New Eden was first. 2 million humans lived there. Families, children, teachers and farmers and artists. The council fleet burned the planet until nothing remained but glass and ash. The attack took 3 hours. Then they moved to the next colony, and the next, and the next. Moan found video recordings in the archives. He watched human cities burn. He listened to their desperate calls for help. He saw ships full of refugees destroyed as they tried to flee. He heard children crying for their parents. The humans fought back, of course. They fought with everything they had, but they were outnumbered and their young fleet stood no chance against the combined might of the council. Ship after ship fell. World after world burned. The war lasted 2 years. 12 billion humans died. Some species refused to participate. Their fleet in protest. They hid human refugees in their merchant ships, but most of the council supported the purge. They believed they were doing the right thing. Finally, the council fleet arrived at Earth. The human, the birthplace of their species, the final target. But Earth was empty. The cities stood silent. The streets were abandoned. Not a single human remained on the entire planet. They had evacuated their entire without anyone noticing. Billions of people gone without a trace. The council searched for months. They scanned every corner of the solar system. They checked every moon and asteroid. They found nothing. Only automated defense platforms that attacked any ship that came too close. And they found a message beacon floating in orbit above Earth. When they played the recording, a human voice spoke words that would haunt the council for centuries. You tried to destroy us because you feared what we might become. You murdered our children. You burned our worlds. You thought you could erase us from existence. You were wrong. We have fled beyond your reach, beyond the edges of your maps, beyond the light of your stars. We will survive. We will grow. We will remember every name. We will remember every face. We will remember what you did to us. And one day, when we are ready, we will return. Remember this moment. Remember this choice. Remember that you made us your enemies. We will remember too. The council declared humanity extinct. They erased all records of the war. They forbade any species from entering the Sol system. They convinced themselves that the threat was over. Moan closed the files and sat in silence. His hands trembled. Tears ran down his face. He had always been proud of galactic civilization. He had believed the council was wise and just. Now he knew the truth. The council was built on a mountain of bones. He understood now why the humans had waited so long to return. They wanted the council to feel safe. They wanted them to forget. They wanted them to grow comfortable and complacent. And then they wanted to appear out of nowhere and watch them tremble. For 800 years, humanity had lived beyond the galactic rim. For 800 years, they had grown in secret. For 800 years, they had remembered. Now they had returned with a ship bigger than a moon and technology that seemed like magic. They had returned stronger than anyone could have imagined. They had returned to face the species that had tried to murder them. Moan thought about Captain Vance's calm voice, her steady eyes, her polite request for an audience. She had not screamed for revenge. She had not demanded blood. She had simply said that humanity wanted to talk. That was more terrifying than any threat, because it meant humanity was in control. They had the power to destroy the Council utterly. They could burn every world, kill every species, take revenge for everything that had been done to them. But they chose to ask for a meeting instead. Moan did not know what humanity wanted. He did not know if the Council would survive this encounter, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Vance stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus. Through the massive windows, she watched the alien fleet circle her ship like nervous fish around a whale. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were up. They were ready for a fight they could not win. She almost felt sorry for them. "Captain," said Commander, her first officer. He walked up to stand beside her. "The Council has agreed to receive you. They want you to come to the station alone." "Of course they do," smiled slightly. "They want to show that they are not afraid. They want to maintain their dignity." "Should I prepare a security team?" "No, I will go alone as they requested." Frowned, his face showed concern. "Captain, with respect, that is dangerous. We know what they did to our ancestors. We cannot trust them." Turned to face him. Her eyes were calm and confident. "Commander, we have spent 800 years preparing for this moment. Our ship could destroy their entire civilization before lunch. They know this. I know this. There is nothing they can do to hurt me that would change anything." She walked toward the shuttle bay. As she moved through the ship, crew members stopped to watch her pass. Thousands of humans lived and worked aboard the Prometheus. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, artists. Each of them carried the weight of history on their shoulders. Each of them remembered the stories passed down through generations. The stories of burning worlds, of murdered children, of a species driven to the edge of extinction. Entered the shuttle bay and paused. A young officer approached her. He was barely 20 years old with the eager eyes of youth. "Captain," he said, "my grandmother was born on the Exodus ships. She used to tell me about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests. She never got to see it again before she died." He swallowed hard. "When you face them, remember her, remember all of them." Placed her hand on his shoulder. "I will, I promise." She boarded the shuttle and flew toward the Council station. As she traveled, she thought about the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. 800 years ago, her ancestors had fled beyond the galactic rim. They had traveled through regions of space that no other species had explored. They had pushed their ships to the limit and beyond. Many died along the way, but they kept going, driven by desperation and hope. And then they found the ruins. Floating in the void between galaxies, they discovered the remains of a civilization that had existed millions of years before the Council was formed. The precursors, humanity called them. They had built wonders that made the Council's technology look primitive, and they had left behind gifts. The precursors had been destroyed by some unknown catastrophe, but their knowledge survived. Their machines still worked. Their libraries still held information beyond imagination. Humanity spent 300 years studying the ruins. They learned secrets that changed everything. They discovered how to bend space and time. They found ways to create matter from energy. They built ships that could cross galaxies in days. But more than technology, humanity changed itself. They evolved in ways the Council would not understand. They enhanced their bodies and minds. They lived longer. They grew stronger. They became something new. Not better than human, still human, just more. Now humanity numbered in the trillions. They had colonized dimensions that the Council did not know existed. They had built worlds from nothing. They had become a power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. And they had remembered every name, every face, every crime. Shuttle docked with the Council station. She stepped out and walked calmly through the halls. Alien guards watched her with fear in their eyes. She ignored them. She had more important things to think about. At that same moment, the council was tearing itself apart. The ambassador pounded his fist on the table. We must attack now. Every moment we wait, they grow stronger. They are already stronger, replied the representative quietly. She had recovered from her faint but still looked pale. Did you not hear the military analysis? One ship could destroy us all if there are more waiting beyond that rift. Then we negotiate, shouted someone else. We apologize, we offer whatever they want. You would have us beg. This face turned purple with rage. Beg the creatures we nearly destroyed. Yes, the ambassador stood. Her small body trembled with emotion. Yes, I would have us beg because we are guilty. We did try to destroy them. We murdered billions of innocent beings. Perhaps it is time we face the consequences of our actions. Chancellor has watched the argument with tired eyes. He had seen this before. When the purge was first proposed, the council had argued just like this. Some had supported it. Some had opposed it. In the end, fear had won. Fear was winning again now. But this time, they feared a different enemy. The doors opened. Captain Vance walked in. She was shorter than most council members expected. Just an average human woman in a black uniform. But something about her presence filled the room. Every eye turned toward her. Every voice fell silent. She stood in the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled representatives. Her gaze paused on each face. When her eyes met the Chancellor's, he felt as if she could see into his soul. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. Thank you for receiving me. I know this meeting must be difficult for you. Difficult? The ambassador laughed bitterly. You appear from nowhere with a warship bigger than our stations. You claim to represent a species we believe dead. Difficult does not begin to describe this situation. Nodded, I understand your confusion. Allow me to explain. She pressed a button on her wrist. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy and beyond. For the past 800 years, humanity has lived here. A section of space far beyond the galactic rim lit up. We discovered technology left behind by an ancient species. We used it to rebuild, to grow, to advance. The map expanded, more regions lit up, then more, then more. Today, humanity controls territory larger than your entire galaxy. We have colonized dimensions you do not know exist. Our population numbers in the trillions. Our technology is beyond anything you can imagine. The chamber was silent. The representatives stared at the map with horror. We could have returned at any time, continued. We could have sought revenge. We could have done to you what you did to us. She paused. We chose not to. The Chancellor found his voice. Why, after everything we did, why would you show mercy? Looked at him. Her expression was unreadable. That, she said, is what we need to discuss. Chancellor as stood before the council after Captain Vance finished her presentation. His old bones ached. His heart was heavy, but his mind was clear for the first time in centuries. I will go to their ship, he announced. I will hear their terms. The chamber erupted in protest. The ambassador shouted that it was a trap. Others warned that he would be killed or taken hostage, but Az raised his hand for silence. I was there, he said quietly. I voted for the purge. I watched their worlds burn. If anyone should face humanity's judgment, it is me. He looked around at the frightened faces. And if they wanted us dead, we would already be dead. They want something else. I intend to find out what. 1 hour later, his shuttle approached the Prometheus. The massive ship grew larger and larger in his viewport until it blocked out the stars entirely. It was like flying toward a mountain made of metal and shadow. He docked in a bay that could have held 100 ships. Human soldiers in powered armor waited for him. Their armor was black and silver, smooth and elegant. They moved with perfect precision as they escorted him into the ship. The hallways of the Prometheus were wide and clean. Thousands of humans walked past him, men and women of every color and shape. Some looked completely normal. Others had modifications he did not understand. Glowing eyes, extra limbs, skin that shimmered like metal. All of them watched him as he passed. There was no hatred in their eyes, no anger, just a calm, patient attention that made his skin crawl. They brought him to a large circular chamber. The walls were covered with glowing panels. As he stepped inside, the panels flickered to life. Names appeared, millions of names scrolling across every surface. Human names, Earth names. "What is this place?" as whispered. Captain Vance stepped out of the shadows. Her face was lit by the soft glow of the memorial walls. "This is the Hall of Memory," she said. "Every name you see belonged to someone who died in the Purge. 12 billion people. 12 billion stories that ended because of your fear." As felt his legs grow weak, he leaned against a pillar for support. The names kept scrolling. Endless names, endless dead. "I have read the records," Vance continued. "I know who voted yes. I know who gave the orders. I know which ships fired the first shots. I know the names of the commanders who burned our colonies." She walked closer to him. Her footsteps echoed in the chamber. "I know your name, Chancellor. I know what you did." As closed his eyes, 800 years of guilt pressed down on him like a physical weight. He had tried to forget. He had tried to convince himself that it was necessary. He had failed. "I am sorry," he said. The words felt hollow and useless. "I know that means nothing. I know no apology can bring back the dead, but I am sorry." Vance studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I believe you are, but sorry is not enough. Not for 12 billion souls." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed documents, video recordings, military orders. "We have spent 800 years collecting evidence. We know everything about the Purge, every decision, every action, every lie. We could use this information to destroy the Council. We could turn species against each other. We could watch your civilization tear itself apart." As looked at the evidence, his own face appeared in several recordings. His own voice, younger and colder, spoke words he wished he could take back. "Why haven't you?" he asked. Vance walked to the memorial wall. She reached out and touched one of the names. Her fingers traced the letters gently. "This was my ancestor. He was a teacher on New Eden Colony. He taught children to read. He loved gardening and old music and terrible jokes." Her voice was soft. "When the bombs fell, he gathered his students in the school basement. He told them stories to keep them calm. He held their hands as the ceiling collapsed." She turned to face Az. Tears glistened in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "Died trying to protect children who were not his own. That is what humanity was before the Purge. That is what we wanted to be, curious, kind, hopeful." She stepped closer to the Chancellor. "You forced us to become something else. You made us run and hide and fight. You taught us to fear and suspect and prepare for war. For 800 years, we have been shaped by what you did to us." Az could not meet her eyes. "Then you must hate us. You must want revenge." "Some of us do." Vance did not deny it. "Some of us spent centuries dreaming of burning your worlds the way you burned ours. Some of us wanted to make you suffer as we suffered." "And what stopped them?" Vance smiled sadly. "We did. The majority of humanity decided that we would not become what you feared we were. We would not prove you right. You killed us because you thought we were dangerous. If we returned with fire and death, we would be exactly the monsters you imagined." She pulled a small crystal from her pocket and held it out to him. "This contains our terms for peace. They are not easy. They are not painless. But they are not revenge. We ask for acknowledgement of what was done. We ask for our territory back. We ask for justice against the individuals who committed crimes, not punishment of entire species. We ask for a seat at the council table." Az took the crystal with trembling hands. "This is more than we deserve." Yes, Vance agreed. It is. My people argued about this for 100 years. Some said we should take everything. Some said we should ask for nothing. In the end, we decided to give the council a choice. A choice. Vance's expression hardened. You can accept our terms and build something new with us, or you can reject them and face the consequences. She gestured at the walls around them. We have 12 Titan-class warships. We have weapons you cannot imagine. We have the power to end every species that voted for the purge. She leaned close to Ez. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We choose mercy today because we believe there is a better way. But our mercy is not weakness. Our patience is not endless. Do not mistake our kindness for inability. If you force us to become the monsters you feared, we will be very good at it. Ez looked into her eyes. He saw no bluff there, no empty threat, just the calm certainty of someone who held absolute power and chose not to use it. I understand, he said. Vance stepped back. Her expression softened slightly. I hope you do, Chancellor. I truly hope you do. Because the next few days will determine whether our species become partners or enemies. And I do not think anyone wants to see what happens if we become enemies. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Read the terms carefully, present them fairly, let the council decide, and Chancellor. Yes. Thank you for coming. It took courage to face us. She almost smiled. Perhaps there is hope for us all after all. She left, as stood alone in the Hall of Memory, surrounded by the names of the dead, holding the future of the galaxy in his trembling hands. The council chamber had never been so quiet. Every seat was filled. Representatives from 12 species sat in their floating chairs, staring at Chancellor as he stood in the center of the room. Behind him, a holographic display showed humanity's terms in clear text. He had read them 5 times. Each time he expected to find hidden cruelty, hidden revenge, but the terms were exactly what Captain Vance had promised, harsh but fair, painful but not deadly. These are humanity's conditions for peace, he announced. His voice echoed in the silent chamber. I will read them one more time. He cleared his throat. First, the Galactic Council must officially acknowledge the purge as an act of genocide. This acknowledgement will be recorded in all historical archives and taught to future generations. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. Second, all former human territories will be returned to human control. This includes the Sol system and the 17 colony worlds that survived the war. Those worlds are ours now, protested the ambassador. His colonies had expanded into human space centuries ago. We have built cities there. Our people have lived there for generations. Third, as continued, ignoring the interruption, humans will have unrestricted access to all galactic space. No species may deny them entry or passage. More protests, more angry voices, as waited for the noise to die down. Fourth, humanity will receive a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, with full voting rights and veto power equal to the founding species. This caused an uproar. The founding species had held special status for millions of years. Giving humanity equal power was unthinkable to many of them. Fifth, as raised his voice over the chaos, a joint tribunal will be formed to investigate individuals who committed crimes during the purge. This tribunal will only pursue those who personally ordered or carried out atrocities. Entire species will not be punished for the actions of their leaders. The chamber fell silent again. This last point was surprising. Many had expected humanity to demand the destruction of the species that had attacked them. Instead, they asked only for justice against individual criminals. These are the terms, as said. They are not negotiable. Captain Vance made that very clear. The ambassador stood. His blue skin was dark with anger. This is humiliation. They want us to admit we were wrong. They want us to give up territory. They want us to bow before the very creatures we tried to eliminate. He looked around the chamber, seeking support. "I say we reject these terms. I say we gather our fleets and fight." "Fight with what?" The representative spoke quietly, but her words cut through the noise. "You saw the analysis. One human ship could destroy everything we have, and there are 12 more waiting beyond the rift, probably hundreds beyond that. Then we die with dignity." "Dignity?" The ambassador laughed bitterly. "We lost our dignity when we murdered 12 billion innocent people. We lost our honor when we burned children in their beds. Do not speak to me of dignity." She stood and faced the chamber. "I will vote to accept these terms, not because I fear human weapons, because the terms are just. We committed genocide. We should face consequences. The fact that humanity asks for justice instead of revenge is more mercy than we deserve." The debate raged for hours. Species that had supported the purge argued for rejection. Species that had opposed it called for acceptance. Old alliances shattered. New divisions formed. Through it all, as remained silent. He had already made his decision. When the vote finally came, he spoke clearly. The collective votes to accept. Other votes followed. The accepted. The accepted. The smaller species, those who had no part in the purge, accepted easily. The voted to reject. So did 2 other species that had led the attacks on humanity. They protested loudly, but the numbers were not on their side. When the final count was complete, the terms passed. Narrowly, but they passed. A message was sent to the Prometheus. Humanity's conditions were accepted. The response came quickly. Captain Vance's face appeared on every screen in the chamber. "The Terran sovereignty acknowledges the Council's decision. We are pleased that you have chosen peace over war. In the coming months, human ambassadors will arrive to begin the process of reintegration. We look forward to building a new relationship with the galactic community." She paused. Her expression was calm but serious. "However, I must make one thing clear. We are watching. We will remember this moment as we remembered the purge. If the Council honors its commitments, humanity will be a partner and ally. If the Council breaks its word." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. The transmission ended. On the Prometheus, Captain Vance turned away from the communication screen. Commander stood waiting for her. "It is done," she said. "They accepted." "Do you think the peace will hold?" asked. Vance walked to the observation window. The Council station hung in space before her, surrounded by its defensive fleet. So small, so fragile. They had no idea how vulnerable they truly were. "No," she admitted. "Not completely. They and their allies will cause trouble. Some species will never accept us. There will be resistance, sabotage, maybe even assassination attempts. Then why offer peace at all? We have the power to simply take what we want." Vance was quiet for a moment. She thought about the Hall of Memory, about the 12 billion names on the walls, about her ancestor who died holding the hands of frightened children. "Because power is not the same as right," she said finally. "Our ancestors survived the purge because they refused to give up hope. They fled into the darkness with nothing but their ships and their dreams. They could have become bitter. They could have taught their children nothing but hatred. Instead, they built something beautiful." She turned to face. "We have the power to destroy the Council. We have the technology to enslave every species in the galaxy. We could take revenge for everything they did to us. But that would make us exactly what they feared we were. It would prove that the purge was justified." Her jaw tightened. "I will not let them be right. I will not let the memory of 12 billion dead be used to justify more death. We will give the galaxy a chance to change. We will offer our hand in friendship." She looked back at the viewport. In the distance, beyond the station, the spatial rift still glowed golden. On the other side, 11 more Titan-class warships waited in silence. "But if they refuse that hand," she continued softly, "if they try to hurt us again, if they prove that peace is impossible, then we will do what we must. Our mercy has limits. Our patience has an end. Nodded slowly, and if it comes to war. Captain Vance smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had prepared for every possibility. Then they will learn why their ancestors tried to destroy us before we could grow up. They will understand why they feared us so much, and they will discover that their fear was not nearly big enough. She turned away from the window. For now, we wait, we watch, we hope for the best. Her voice hardened. And we prepare for the worst, because humanity did not survive the darkness just to die in the light. We return to reclaim our place in this galaxy. One way or another, we will have it. The Prometheus hung in space, a monument to everything humanity had suffered and everything they had become. Behind it, the golden rift glowed like a doorway to another world. The Galactic Council had made their choice. They had chosen peace. They had chosen to try. Whether that choice would hold, only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Humanity had returned, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again.